Welcome back to another part of this F1 25 My Team Career Mode. This is part number 11 today for the Belgian Grand Prix, and for the very first time, the contract window is now open in this My Team 2.0 series. Last time, though, at the British Grand Prix, we are fighting hammer and tong all the way to the end for one championship point, as we got a big reality check of where we have fallen to with our rivals upgrading, and we got a reminder that we are still a pretty new team on the grid, as Lewis Hamilton reminded us of how good he can be on his day, winning back-to-back British Grand Prix, and the crowd going absolutely crazy, I'm sure. But now we go on towards the next race, and more importantly, like I said, contract windows opening, the driver window opening, I should say, as the header of this email from Andrew is our head of personnel. So before we get into any contract talks, I'm just going to go over to the activity timeline. I'm going to do my owner training, because you might remember from last episode, my owner training, the next perk I've purchased is to speed up driver talks. So that will come in handy for this very window, because that will now fill the bar to the next meetings we get with each driver at a quicker rate. I'm also going to go ahead and once again try and boost the driver perception as much as we can, because I want to try and get the perception of Jenson Button as high as we can, just so we get a better chance of seeing if it's possible to keep him on after this first season. You know, the whole team, the beating heart, is based off him and Braun GP, so if we can look to negotiate with him for a season 2, I would really love that. But equally at the same time, as many of you have pointed out, there are some nice storylines to be had elsewhere if we weren't able to sign him. But that's the beauty of a new series like this, and also with so many new features. You know, in many ways, this series may take a few twists and turns that even I'm not predicting, basically, and we're going to have to kind of basically piece together the storyline as it's happening to me, basically, because things will be out of my control. As we have a server crash that I'm going to go ahead and save performance data for. A little hit of 100 R&D points is not too bad, as now Andrew comes in with...
Okay, boss. Advanced talks have gone well, I must say. We're now at the stage where we can meet face-to-face again with them if you'd like. The agenda today will be trying to reduce some of their expectations, get a better deal for us. And, of course, we can always delay.
This is our second talk with Tim Tramnitz. We had an initial conversation, and as I understand it, as we have these other meetings, the contract that we can agree with him gets more favorable, you know, towards us. So maybe slightly less salary, less expectations, essentially. So we're going to go ahead and have this meeting, as I've discussed with you guys before in a previous episode. You know, Tramnitz, actually, to my surprise, very much so to my surprise, I've really grown to him. You know, we've had some good times with him. He's now etched into this tapestry of aarava Archer Racing in this first season. Going to entertain his contract talks, because I honestly don't know where we're going to go with this. Like, if we're not able to even have a proper look into signing Jenson, then I might want to look completely different for my driver lineup. Who knows? Who knows? So I'm keeping options open, and to that effect as well, it looks like at the same time, Bortoletto is ready for his initial conversation. So this is his first meeting with us, so we can see what he's about. You may have noticed there with Tramnitz, we did get lower expectations from him and a more favorable contract. Bortoletto, it's our first contract, kind of, you know, speaking with him. 68% chance of signing, annual salary 4 million, so obviously not as crazy as Jenson, for example, but I think a bit more than Tramnitz. Expectations did surprise me there, a little bit higher in the fan rating and engineering staff. So I think these expectations just basically play into the contract you could get with him, not necessarily what they absolutely need from you, because otherwise that would seem a bit harsh for a first team in F1, as the window's now officially open.
Big day. The team feel we now have enough info following our talks with possible drivers that we can now start negotiating contracts. Drivers who we've had at least an early meeting with may now be receptive to discussing a contract, trying to get things ready for next season.
I'm not going to lie here, Andrew's getting me a little bit worried in a way. It all sounds a bit serious, a bit too serious for me at the moment. I really feel like we still need maybe an episode or two to really contemplate our options, or I also want to wait on seeing what progress we get with the talking progress with a certain Kimi Antonelli on the far right of this screen. You can see with Jensen, we're about halfway there to our second meeting, although look at that, the perception is good now. His perception of the team, of us, of me, is very, very good. It's the same as Tramnit, so that's quite positive. That gives me a bit of hope that maybe there is a conversation, a dialogue to be had, and maybe we can scramble something together and get enough money together to get Jensen legit, you know, for season 2 with the in-game mechanics. We've got, obviously, Ocon approached us. We were scouting Bortoletto before. I've now started to scout Antonelli because I mentioned this last episode where Mercedes are doing so badly. I reckon there's half a chance he might consider leaving Mercedes after 1 year because they're doing that badly. And, you know, my pitch to him would be, look at Tramnit. He's been shining and he was much lower rated than he is. I think we could really grow Antonelli on this game into a superstar as we have done an F1 manager before.
Hey boss, we've had a reply from the sponsor we were targeting. Let's take a look. Fingers crossed. Great news, boss. The sponsor we were after are pleased with our proposals and are happy to sign. I'll get all the relevant paperwork sorted. All that's left to say is, congratulations.
Hey, excellent news from X-Forming. We are going to re-sign with him as a title partner, and now we have upped our weekly income, that'll be for next season, to the highest that was available, whilst keeping that 8 million signing bonus. That's excellent stuff, and of course we've been building loyalty. We're very close to getting a brand new livery reward from them, which will be very exciting indeed, I think, for next episode that might come in just about as we get good news. This was from the story earlier with the server crash. I forfeited 100 R&D. It's come back. Good faith karma. We've earned 500 R&D back from that story. So good vibes all round. We're now going ahead and purchasing the development for the tyre wear upgrade, the first ever tyre upgrade we have done on the car. We've got little other bits coming in on the power unit side, durability side, and we definitely need some upgrades coming in because, to my surprise, the AI teams around me and everyone on the grid have been rapidly upgrading in the last 3 episodes. I thought it was going to follow a similar pattern to the first 7 rounds, but clearly, obviously, you know, the AI also simulates these features of purchasing facility improvements, you know, then purchasing R&D, having to purchase the breakthroughs to unlock further upgrades. So just like me, it took them a bit of time, but now because they're all established F1 teams, they probably have way more money than me, and they're now really turning up the wick, and the upgrades are flying out of the factories. You know, Williams, look at that, they've nearly caught McLaren on paper. Ferrari and Red Bull are streaking away. Mercedes, even more shocking they're doing so badly because they're the 3rd best team on paper, and we're now below Haas with both of our cars. We're now back down to the 3rd worst team technically on this grid. So we very much need more upgrades coming in. We already, in the last 2 episodes, got installed that facility upgrade to the chassis to expand our upgrades. I need to do it for aero. I need to unlock more aero upgrades. So after that comes in, we'll have new upgrades to do on every department: powertrain, chassis, and aero. It's very much needed. I was naive. I thought genuinely we could get to the end of season 1 with only having maybe the powertrain, the next tier of upgrades, unlocked. But no, by the end of season 1, I'll be on to the 2nd tier of upgrades, the next breakthrough for each department, because we need to, otherwise we're going to be left in the dust. I really thought we were going to have plain sailing to the end with the AI, but they have come back at me with some vim, which is great to see, obviously, but it was just a bit of a surprise, and it's obviously been a bit of pain in the recent episode of how slow we were around Silverstone, as we do get also another facility upgrade on the corporate side of things, so that will be a booster to our secondary sponsors. So I'm hoping with slightly more income coming in, obviously it all ebbs and flows, more money means more facility improvements, more R&D upgrades to get, so I'm hoping that's a bit of a long-term purchase basically, but we're still playing with finite budget, and unfortunately still there are, you know, as usual, development failures, research being delayed here and there, so constantly going through the different menus and redeveloping parts or re-researching parts and assigning them where we can, and Button is going to get the team's first tyre upgrade on this car, and hopefully, he's already a smooth driver of course, but he can use that to good use to maybe do one less stop in some of the upcoming races, because that definitely has been a hindrance to us, is just that staple on, oh, we're doing the maximum amount of stops because the car just literally doesn't have the tyre wear for it. But look at that now, we've got a meeting available with Jensen. His second meeting has opened up, and it's a slightly different set of expectations and a slightly different contract, I think that was. So things are going in the right direction. Definitely that's less engineering workforce he wants. And the fan rating, I think the fan rating's actually gone up. He wants a higher fan rating, and he wants a higher vehicle performance ranking expectations, but the actual contract terms have gone slightly down, slightly less money per year. And I didn't know this. There's actually, just like the title sponsor, there are a number of different counter offers we can give him if you click into it basically. So we can go for a riskier one, 41% chance of signing though. Ideally, we want the third set of meetings, and that riskier counter offer is just above 50%. I'd be comfortable doing a 50-50 chance of him accepting a riskier term for, like, you know, lower amount of money we have to pay him. I would be comfortable making that gamble. I can say with confidence right now, because if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And like I said, the story can go a different way basically, but we're going to have to see when that third meeting can happen. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. But speaking of the last meeting, Tim Tramnitz's last meeting is coming up.
Okay, I'll be honest. These talks have been pretty painstaking, but we're making excellent progress. There are a few details to iron out, so when you're ready, start the meeting and we'll try to smooth over any final issues ahead of a potential deal.
Once again, Andrew is really scaring me with how serious he sounds about these. It feels like we're about to lose the business with the way these talks are going. I can delay this talk, and I am going to delay it because I need to get a clearer picture of what's happening with Bortoletto, but more so, I'm not going to lie, I really want to see what Antonelli makes of our team and what the contract's looking like just after one official meeting. I just need that first meeting with Antonelli, then I'll be happy to start making decisions, because if we could get him, you know, let's be real, if we got Antonelli, that would be absolutely incredible. That would be a massive coup for us versus Mercedes. But that's now all the admin and the management talk done for this episode. It's time to dive into the action, driving as Tramnitz for the Belgium Grand Prix.
High-speed straights, heady elevation changes and dramatic corners. What is there not to love about today? It's qualifying day here at Spa-Francorchamps.
I'm not going to lie, I actually completely forgot that the Belgium Grand Prix was a sprint round going into this episode, but here we are then. Spa, it's such an iconic circuit. It didn't really need a sprint to spruce it up, but I guess the thinking from the FIA with the sprint choices for this season 2025 were, you know, Brazil, for example, also esteemed with history, doesn't really need a sprint race, but it's actually a really exciting sprint race. So that's probably what they thought here with the Belgium Grand Prix as we get into, well, this is sprint qualifying and the end of our one and only flying lap here. In the sprint, of course, you've got limited tyres and you've only got basically one soft for the short sprint quali. And to be fair, we have done insane. P10, Jensen 5/10s back and 5 places back, but look at the lap times. If he had just gained 1/10 of a second, he would have been P11 with us, so we would have been right next to each other. So that's maybe quite promising. It's such a competitive, close grid with some of those lap times that it's really anyone's game. And so we kind of just lucked out into a really good, solid start for this sprint. It's going to be a little bit of a dress rehearsal for tomorrow tomorrow's Grand Prix. So let's see what the straight line speed is like. Let's see what the pace is like on a set of mediums on slightly lower fuel as we go to 5 red lights for the sprint here in Spa. Lights out, and we're underway. Gasly, good getaway. Russell as well as Kimi Antonelli bogging down on the left-hand side. Can we get through on one Merc at least into turn 1? Easy does it. Very, very easy to make a bit of contact there as the track kind of tightens back up after an initially wide opening at the first turn, as there's plenty of side-by-sides going on through Rouge, up Radion. Gasly gets the Mercedes. Once again, the Alpine is flying up to P7. Can we get the second silver arrow of the day and get up into P8? Easy does it, as there's fighting ahead between Tsunoda and McLaren and Ferrari as well. Leclerc versus Norris, that is. And it's Hamilton that leads the way off the back of his win at the British Grand Prix, continuing fine form here in the sprint. And Leclerc has fought Norris so much for second place that Hamilton's laughing. He's got a massive gap now in the lead of this sprint. Tsunoda, the lead Red Bull, in P4, Piastri P5, Verstappen down in P6, and Gasly nipping at his heels, only a quarter of a second behind as we maintain P8 for now, but Russell close behind. Button has gained 1 position up to P14, but things look incredibly competitive around this circuit as Russell overtakes us, as we just didn't use as much battery as him, I suspect, but it's all right. We'll be able to get the elbow out a little bit and squeeze him off in the middle of that uphill climb, and instead it's going to be Alexander Albon coming through. Bit of a cheeky toe off me. It's nearly 3 abreast into the corner at the end of the Kemmel Straight. But Albon is the one that makes the overtake on the Merc. We stay put in P8. But now we've got the Williams on the back of us as we now go to a really nice new aerial shot. I've never noticed so far on the replay cameras to watch Lando Norris get ahead of Verstappen. Tsunoda, though, at some point has gone into P3 then. And he's actually comfortably in P3. So Tsunoda, really decent uptick of performance this race weekend, as it's still a 1-2 for Ferrari. And this is Antonelli overtaking his more senior teammate Russell. Russell struggling for pace. Antonelli into the top 10. Won't matter in terms of any points, of course. It's only for the top 8 in the sprint. And then what's happened to Aston? Alonso's gone from a top 5 at the British Grand Prix to Stroll and Alonso P20, P22. And we saw on the R&D chart, they're still very much up there. So Aston Martin having some sort of off weekend. Maybe they've horribly misunderstood the car with the setup this weekend with a limited practice. I have no idea if that's actually possible with the AI, but it seems to be the only explanation to me at this moment in time is, oh, we make a big error on the curb. We get far too much on the right-hand side, and the curb bites us back, and we take a travel into the gravel trap. Albon now has overtaken us for that last points-paying position. Can we come back at the Williams on the outside into the bus stop chicane? Albon on the right, we're on the left, and we're still going to be at it on the exit. We've got DRS. I don't know if he has as well off Gasly. Yes, he does. So we both have DRS. So very equally matched. We try and go for the cheeky little switchback there, but to be fair to Albon, he just did me mid-corner traction, but we will get the run into a Rouge, neck and neck, committed up the hill the entire way, and we've made the overtake as we go over the crest. Now down the Kemmel Straight though, Williams has the advantage, tucked up behind us. Meanwhile, the two Mercedes looking to make a swap maybe again as they squabble, as we're trying so hard to squeeze out Albon, but he's kept his foot in, and no. A little jink on the front wing, there's damage, and there's more damage! No! Horrendous mistakes, 2 mistakes for me in back-to-back corners, and it's all boiled over. We were maybe a little bit too aggressive with Albon, trying to squeeze him out, and maybe he got a little bit irked by that and was equally as aggressive with us. The first bit of contact was just, that was racing, little jink of the front wing, it was lime, but that second bit of contact into that long right-hander, That was just a really bad misjudgment from me of where Albon was braking. Maybe the slight nick on the front wing already hurt us then at that point, but now we're very much hurting. I mean, it's the first real big blunder that I've made in the series so far. It's unfortunate it had to happen whilst we were driving as the F3 teammate of the two. I suppose it's quite a realistic sort of mistake of, you know, an F3 driver being thrust into Formula 1, only his 11th race in Formula 1, but it's going to be a painful end to this sprint, but it's the sprint. We lost out on 1 point. I mean, we lost out on 1 point last time at the British Grand Prix, so it's we're not strangers from it basically, and we've lost out to Russell now as we're basically just limping home to the end with this sort of damage. Doohan and Antonelli now snipping at the heels as we dip another tyre into the gravel, and you know that wing being yellow. It's, we're just never going to be able to outdrive that. In a straight line, we're okay, but every single time we get to that middle sector, it's horrendous. Anyways, elsewhere, in a victorious fashion, Lewis Hamilton is going to win the sprint here at the Belgian GP. I believe it was a 1-2 for Ferrari here in the sprint. So Ferrari in a very good groove, you've got to say, from the British Grand Prix to now, and now we know for good reason they are the best team on paper on the R&D chart. So it's not a fluke, as I saw someone say in the comments about maybe Ferrari needing to be nerfed. It's a career mode. That's what career mode in my team is all about. It's not meant to be exactly like real life. 11 episodes into season 1, it's already diverging from real life, which is fantastic because it creates that alternative F1 universe that we can all get lost in, because the hope is it's better than real life. And so far, you got to admit, I think it's getting to that point because we're getting Ferrari now back into the fight. They might, with this sort of form, they could start to catch Lando and Max in the championship, and then it could get really exciting. But we're back again now in the garage, ready for a second bit of qualifying in this episode. The full qualifying for the Belgium Grand Prix. This time we have 2 sets of softs, so let's see how this goes. We had a very good, almost one shot in the sprint quali that got us to P10. Where can we get to this time? Well, the first lap, there was a little bit of time on the table, I feel, in Sector 2 for sure. We come across the line. It's below Button this time. 7th place, about 3/10 off. I think that's Doohan up there in P5, and by the time we get ready for our second and final lap, we're down to 17th place in the order, so we do need to pull up our socks a little bit and try and find some time. And like I said, Sector 2, we lost a bit of time on the exit and entry into these corners, and you can see on the top right we're gaining time very rapidly through some of these corners. Now up to nearly half a second gained it will be as we go down the crest in towards Pouhon. We're down to P18, so this really does need to catapult us up the orders. We're now 7/10 up as we go to the bus stop. It's going to get up to maybe 9/10 of this second. We're taking the bus stop a lot better than we did on the first run. It's going to be 1 second gained across the line, and to my surprise, it's enough for P5. What? How on earth have we done that? I mean, look at the lap times. They're a bit nuts, to be honest. The lap times are a bit crazy. There is 4/10 from Lewis to Leclerc. Then there's 2/10. Then there's 3/10 to P4 Ocon. And then there's us. And then it's all very close. So the top 3 have had some very weird times. But if you look at the R&D chart, if you remember, we're just below Haas. A Haas car got up to P4, so you can't say, oh, it's not realistic or anything like that. I mean, this was clearly just a crazy mental qualifying. Buttons P12, Ocon P4, Sainz 6th, Gasly 7th. We've got Piastri way down in P16. Again, what's happened to Aston? They've had a howler this race weekend. They're sharing the last row. Yeah, this has been a crazy full qualifying for the Belgium Grand Prix, so I will happily take the P5 there, and who knows what we can do from here. I'm excited to find out. Let's go to Sunday.
Welcome to this visit to the Ardennes countryside. Spa-Francorchamps hosted its first Grand Prix back in 1925, and this historic track is loved by drivers and fans alike. and us here in the commentary box too. So it's a warm welcome from the Belgian Grand Prix. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Ocon, Tim Tramnitz and Sainz, Gasly, Antonelli, Norris and Liam Lawson, Button, Hulkenberg, George Russell, Doohan, Piastri, Bortoletto, Alex Albon and Ollie Behrman, Hadjar, Tsunoda, Stroll and Fernando Alonso rounds off the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. And alongside me today, a man small in stature but big on comment, Anthony Davidson. Hello. In Formula One, Ant, we take every race as it comes and there's always another race next week. But some milestones are worth thinking about. This, double figures now for our new team.
Yeah, the team's 10th appearance. They've done well to this point. They're getting their foot through the door, but there's a lot more to come. Much tougher tracks where you've got to get even more performance out of your car.
It's hard to tell how we're going to do in this one based off the sprint because of the damage we got. I mean, pre the damage, we were okay. Clearly, again, like Gasly and Alpine showed a lot of pace in that sprint. We didn't see a Haas in that sprint race, so I'm curious to see how Ocon's pace is here. And another spanner in the works, apart from a, unrepresentative sprint race, is there is a forecast for a little bit of rain at the end of this race. And Spa, it's such a huge circuit that when it rains here, it's very unique. It can be raining in one sector and be dry in the other. So that could certainly cause even more carnage than we've got right now with this very jumbled up starting grid. But what is consistent are the Ferraris being the best team at the moment on this grid. It's another front row lockout for them. Hamilton on pole as we go to lights out, and we're on the way to slow getaway for Verstappen ahead of us and Ocon. Is there enough space to go through? We're getting boxed in. We narrowly miss hitting the back end of Verstappen, and in doing so we had to forfeit that position to the Haas because my closing speed on the Red Bull was far too quick. We were gonna basically do a copycat of the crash I had with Albon and break the front hand side of my front wing, and that would have been horrendous on lap 1. So we've avoided that, but there's movement going on as Verstappen now, being on the back foot, is now having a go at Hamilton for second place. The Red Bull on the right goes through, so the pole man has gone from first to third. It's a nightmare for Hamilton there, unfortunately, on the opening lap. Leclerc's through into first as there's fighting going on behind between Pierre Gasly and Carlos Sainz. Those two are very much getting very familiar. Definitely those two respectively in their teams, the one spearheading this new amount of pace they've both got. And look at the Alpine round the outside. We saw technically the Alpine's actually the quickest of the two cars, so no surprise Gasly can go around the outside, and we've seen how ridiculously quick the Alpine can be in a straight line, which is ironic because the Renault power unit, as we know from the very start of this series, is the worst engine on the grid. But clearly the drag reduction upgrades have been coming thick and fast for the blue and pink outfit as Piastri, oh my god, honestly, the amount of bad luck and just bad performances Piastri's got in this series and on this game in general, as I've seen from your guys' comments, is just ridiculous. It's such a shame that they haven't, we have to wait probably like a whole another month to get Piastri's rating updated. It's so sad. He deserves way more, with the season he's having IRL, leading the championship, and yet here in the game, he is floundering. To be fair, McLaren are floundering. I think that was Hulkenberg in the kick Sauber. I think he overtook Lando into Eau Rouge as it's 3 wide, and Button is trying to make a double overtake on Albon and Doohan. It's a fantastic little attempt here, but unfortunately Albon will just have too much for JB, but it's because he's on the hard compound, so Button's done well to even try that overtake as Lando's now back ahead of Hulkenberg. But again, really frustrating to see like Button choose the hard tyre, for example. Just don't think that was the way to go with the strategy. you know, I would have preferred him to also start on mediums, because I think this just opens us up to possibilities if it does rain. Because the reason why I've gone mediums and not the hards is because we could go on to hards next, and then we could get to the wet period, if it is going to rain, that is. It's a big if. At the moment, what we are doing is just eagerly watching how this fight brews between Ocon and Hamilton. The Haas was genuinely having a little look at the Ferrari, but then eventually, 2 laps later, lap 5, he's lost DRS. We're now in the DRS of Ocon, and so the Ferrari is edging away, and slowly Ocon is coming towards us. But I've got to hand it to his AI. Really well managed on the ERS, because I seem to be able to close in the last sector, but then this first sector, I think he's got way more battery saved up than I do, and I just don't have the legs to get up this hill, go down the Kemmel Straight and make a move with DRS. Like, we're getting into consistently single-digit figures for battery down the Kemmel Straight, but I've got like 20%, you know, through Blanchimont, you know, through here. You can see, maybe in hindsight, I could have maybe been a bit more measured and not used too much battery in the last sector to then pay us back in the first sector. But the problem with that is I'm scared of losing DRS entirely if I don't use that battery in the last sector. So it was a bit of a cat and mouse game here with Ocon, which was quite fun as well, pushing to try and get that overtake or get a sniff of it, as Leclerc comes in quite early, lap 7, because he started on softs. So no wonder Leclerc got into first place compared to Lewis, compared to Verstappen. He was on the soft compound. He comes in earlier. Ocon now peeling into the pits. Hamilton does as well. So those medium tyre runners starting to make their first pit stops, but not including us. We continue on because I want to stretch this medium tyre just a little bit longer to give us more of a chance to go onto the hards and then straight onto the intermediates. At this point, I was putting all my chips into it raining later, and that we can just make that one less dry tyre pit stop, as Leclerc has found himself with a bit of traffic of Liam Lawson in the V-Carb running 3rd place on the road. Button is up to P5. He's yet to pit in this race so far, though, as Leclerc goes from left to right. And you know what? That V-Carb giving him a good old little squabble there. A little bit of anguish in the cockpit from the man from Monaco. Unable to make an easy pass as Lewis now catches up to his old pal Jenson Button for P5. The battle is, as our tyres are very, very second-hand. The icon on the right-hand side is brick orange, which, if you don't know, that basically means it's definitely time to come in. I mean, we almost lose the back end and drift our way through the final corner as we get this car wrestled in. I think wrestling is the right word, into the pit lane for our first pit stop. So, on to hards. Leclerc goes through. I'm sure Hamilton will be going through, but I'm curious to see where the others are, because I feel like we had a pretty good stint on the mediums there, even with the tyre wear. It's a good pit stop, 2.4, thankfully, made up for all those mistakes that's been happening lately. And there goes Hamilton, there goes Button, but we've come out ahead of Tsunoda even, which is very impressive, because Tsunoda was ahead, wasn't he? I think in the Red Bull. I mean, either way, we've jumped Ocon though. The overcut of dreams, we've jumped Ocon. We were behind him before he came in. Tsunoda gets us because we've just come out on cold, hard tyres. So, of course, he's overtaken us with DRS, and also I've got no battery there. But Mark here talking about bringing in my tyres gently. Absolutely not, mate. I'm going to get Tsunoda as quick as I can because I want that clean air ahead of him and behind JB, knowing that Button is going to be pitting sooner rather than later as we get through this left-hander, hook up the car incredibly, dousing the battery and go down the inside. It's a little bit sketchy with the grass on the left-hand side, but we kept the right-hand side of the car within the limit still and got the overtake. Will it be for anything? I don't know, because Ocon now is attacking us and Tsunoda is also in the vicinity. So it may have been a bit of a lost cause maybe, because these guys might be coming back at me now as Ocon goes through on the right. Tsunoda following through, Sainz in the background. We're going to try and go for the repass on Tsunoda, but Ocon may have just got us there fair and square as we're down to P5, and now we're in the middle, or, you know, at the sharp end of this pack of cars of Ocon, ourselves, Tsunoda, Sainz, Gasly, Norris. This is going to get interesting. This is going to be a big fight for P4 down to about P8 or 9, is it? As we're actually looking to repass Ocon for P4, because behind, look at Sainz, 2 seconds the gap. He squabbled with Tsunoda so much that we're actually just fighting Ocon at the moment for P4, and we don't have to worry about the cars behind. We do have to worry about a bit of gravel on our tyres as we keep going wide in areas of this track, and now we do have to worry about Carlos Sainz on lap 12 as Ocon goes for another pass into the bus stop chicane. We give him the room to work with. We get on the curb though. That unsettles the car. Sainz now tucked up behind. It might be a forced 3 wide moment, because as I'm trying to attack Ocon, Sainz wants to attack both of us, and you saw there I got out of the middle. If I had kept my car in the middle there, 100% I would have been pinched in and boxed in by those two. So it was quick thinking to get out of that, but unfortunately we lost the position then to Sainz. So we're down to P6. Gasly's in the mixer behind us as well. So this is a 4-way scrap, and this is all 4 of us cars that should be fighting each other. So just all 4 of us have lucked in, you know, with the crazy qualifying. All 4 of us are fighting for P4 down to P7 rather than, like, you know, P7 to P10, for example. And Sainz now is the one leading the way as we overtook Ocon, but Sainz got the lot of us, and I fear he may now be pushing away, as is Russell P9, Albon finishing out the top 10, Button down in P13 he's on the softs. Oh, brother. Why have you picked this soft tyre? Another example. I really hope it's set up on a plate for a future feature to be, since we're now just the owner and no longer an owner-driver, let me decide the teammate strategy. Because why is Button on a set of softs knowing that there's rain coming later? That is just so idiotic, and that's frustrating, because I know JB can be doing wonders in that car today with the upgraded tyre wear as well, as a load of people come in now.
We think we might see some rain. ETA about 15 minutes.
And that is the radio I wanted to hear. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much. A load of people are in. We're going to continue on, because I reckon we can go on till that wet period. Just going to get confirmation of, I was going to get confirmation of how long the rain will come, but Mark doesn't want to answer.
We don't have the data for that, I'm afraid.
What do you mean?
We don't currently have the data for that request.
What do you mean you don't have the data, brother? You just had it 2 corners ago. Oh, Mark, you gave me some good news, and now you're pissing me off again.
We can't provide you with that
We don't
information
have the
right now.
data. You told me the data. Oh, okay. Well, as we continue on, Hamilton overtakes us. We don't make it too difficult because he's not in our races. Albon is going to suffer an engine failure at Pouon. It's a little bit sketchy, very near to the racing line, and that is going to be enough for the red flag. The red flag is out for Albon, near to the racing line, and that is going to make things, well, chaos maybe, because I think it should be raining technically right now in the race, if the forecast is to be believed. But the game is not allowing me to go onto a set of inters. So, oh, look at that screen. So it's rained during the red flag, but now it's dried up again, and then it might be raining again. This is going to be very interesting, as everyone apart from Hamilton on the softs, Hamilton on hards, as we go to lights out for the second time today on Sunday. It's a good getaway versus Leclerc. We dip a tyre into the grass as we've not given the racing room on the left. We're trying to wrestle this car through, and out of everyone, Hamilton has gone through into first place. How has he managed that? Verstappen is also not on the softs. What's going on? The 2 hard tyre runners, they're the ones 1-2. Are the soft tyres just not working right now? What is going on? As Ocon blitzes past us on the left-hand side, Leclerc trying it as well. We don't have too much battery to use, and it's very overcast, and I suspect it's actually a bit wet out there, but it doesn't look as wet as it should do, which, by the way, a patch just dropped today after I recorded this episode. So from next episode onwards, visually, it should be more apparent how wet it is out there. And it would have been chaos either way, because the game just didn't allow any of us to go onto Intis. But I think technically it could be intermediates right this second, because I'm not feeling too punchy. Even on these soft tyres, and we know already that in the wet conditions the AI are very, very bloody good, and even more so in changeable conditions. They are cooking me, because we make an error there and Ocon immediately is on us to get up into third place. We've only got 2 laps to go after this one. Is Ocon about to get a podium for Haas today, as we're trying to keep ahead of Leclerc for P4 and maybe catch back up to Ocon, but I've got no battery. I'm 6% battery. I'm going to be a sitting duck as we try to squeeze Leclerc out, but he is having none of it, and he pushes past us up into P4, and I am just going backwards. The red flag, I thought it may have been a glorious red flag for us. I would have preferred we carried on at this rate, because we're just going backwards now. Trying to come back at Tsunoda, but into turn 1, the rears lock up, and then there's no grip at the mid-corner, and we've gone deep, we've gone wide, and we're down another position. Any more? Any more? Oh, it's a tragic end. Oh, no. Is it going to be back-to-back painful races? It was a pain not scoring points in the home race. And here, after running in P3 momentarily, P4/5 for most of the race, oh, we're getting absolutely rinsed now. No battery to defend there. And then I've gone off because I don't have any grip. I don't have any grip into any of these corners. The AI are cooking me because they've still got grip, but I don't. It is raining now. You can see it's physically raining now if you look at the chassis and the halo. And there is no grip out there. I can't get any. But these guys are so perfect. They're tiptoeing around and they're fighting each other. Russell down the inside of Gasly at Pouon, whereas I'm just trying to hang on for dear life in P9 here. From P3 to P9. That is just depressing, man. That is depressing. On the last lap, look how slow everyone's going now. Now the AI are feeling it as well. They're feeling the wet weather. There's some droplets hanging about on the camera. And are we about to see an absolutely insane result here? Ocon, a couple of corners to go, might just be getting a podium here for Haas. Meanwhile, Hamilton from Silverstone to Spa. He's going to win another Grand Prix as Leclerc is going to get Ocon. Oh, it's heartbreak for Ocon and Haas in the last corner. Leclerc gets onto the podium as we just about wrestle the car for P9. But the big story is Lewis Hamilton. It's a win in the sprint. It's a win in the Grand Prix. And it's back-to-back wins from the British Grand Prix to the Belgian one. Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari, they are trying their best to get into the title fight. They're trying.
And as we've said so many times in the past, the checkered flag is out for our winner, Lewis Hamilton.
And that's 2 wins in a row now, of course, Crofty. And it marks the fact that it's not a fluke. So, you know, their head's in the right space. What more can we see going forwards?
It's a familiar sight in Formula One. And here it is once again. Lewis Hamilton with the trophy held high, celebrating a masterful victory.
Like I said, they are trying hard. Leclerc is now only 11 points off the top, which is now Verstappen, by the way. So no longer does Lando lead the championship. Verstappen leads, and Leclerc's not too far off. Hamilton's not too far off. And in the constructors, it's a different story. Ferrari are the ones that have to be chased down, but they're miles ahead of McLaren. And McLaren, they're probably worried about Red Bull. And then for us, even with a difficult race, we're only 9 points behind Williams. So it feels worse than it is, but I'm just worried about Alpine and Haas's momentum and Aston's momentum. So we'll see how it's going to progress. But the races are getting difficult now with all our rivals looking better. And then obviously the rain didn't help today. Guys, either way though, it's been a big episode. A lot of work done at the start with the contract talks and still a lot of fun in that Belgium Grand Prix. If you have enjoyed it, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.